no ordinance can be applied.
Oh, yeah.
Can be applied in act.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
I figured the first person they thought they wanted kind of weird. I just don't think.
Just wanted to make sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And all the talkers they have.
The truth is, I was staring at it.
No, thank you.
France, I'm sure. I don't, but I have a voicemail.
I didn't.
He said I really did. They're just looking for the first person to say something. That was about
Okay, let's call the meeting back to order. Item on the agenda, public hearing to hear ordinance number 32. And we have a list of people that have the chance to give their comments. We're gonna follow the same rules we had for public hearing of the last one. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. And we're gonna go off the list that we had that we signed in.
So here at 10 o'clock, we'll call.
You got a minute yet to
1 minute to before 10 o'clock, so.
Oops, 10 o'clock.
I'll make a motion, we go into public hearing. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are into public hearing.
Okay, Karen Gill Moss. Be our first speaker. All right, here. Would you like to step
Come
up
up to
to
the-
the podium?
I would just like to make a comment. I would like to know how we came up with the decibels. And the safe distance. And that would be my comment. I'd just like to know how the board came up with those.
This is all just public hearing, you give you a chance to speak, it's not question and
Okay.
answer.
Okay, so I don't think it's safe, that's it.
Paula Watkins.
Previously, I asked the Board of Supervisors to lower the noise limit to the World Health Organization recommended wind turbine noise guidelines of less than 45 decibels day, evening, night weighted sound pressure level. This has been disregarded when writing Ordinance 32. First, I am concerned there is no maximum noise limit listed for when the wind turbine must be shut down. According to the Center for Disease Control, National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, the maximum noise level a person can safely be exposed to without hearing damage is listed below in the handout that I have provided. At 100 decibels, that is 15 minutes. There's no way for a homeowner to report sound levels that exceed 50 decibels in the current ordinance. And I would recommend adding daily fines for the wind turbine companies when they go over 50 decibels. This is needed to protect the citizens of Iowa County. I've emailed the supervisors a Des Moines Register article on the lack of blade recycling on 11/10, and on 11/18, the Cedar Rapids Gazette article about the blades going to landfills, and did not receive a response from any of these emails from the Board of Supervisors. I believe that Ordinance 32 as currently written does not provide adequate safeguards for the residents of Iowa County. I would recommend the Board of Supervisors put a 6-month moratorium in place so the board has adequate time to rewrite Ordinance 32.
Kelsey Cox.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Cox, for those of you who don't know, lifetime Iowa County resident. I'm also a flight instructor, an instrument flight instructor, and an advanced ground flight instructor. So my livelihood is kind of dependent on these airports in Iowa County as I give instruction here. Iowa County is lucky to have 2 airports that provide an efficient way for students to learn outside of the Cedar Rapids, Iowa City airspace without groundway. Today I'm asking for a 3-mile protection zone for all airports and a 5-mile zone for airports with runway over 3,200 feet in length. 5 main reasons for this. First, current Iowa County ordinance give protection to Cedar Rapids in Lynn County, Belle Plaine in Benton County. No obstacles in Iowa County are to interfere in any way with these 2 airports. If we already have ordinance in place that protect these airports in adjoining counties, why should we not protect our own? These assets have continuously operated for 50 years at no expense to county and provide prime benefit for our law enforcement to protect all Iowa County citizens. To not protect them is assuming additional liability for the county. Second, why are some investments protected, like hog confinements, but not other investments, such as the airport, which would benefit the whole community? Third, the FAA suggests in FAR 77.17 a minimum protection area of 3 miles for all airports and 5-mile protection for those that have a runway over 3,200 feet in length. Why the difference? Think of it as a car and a semi. You can stop a car on a dime, semi you cannot. It is not the turf, asphalt, concrete that dictate what lands at an airport, but rather the runway length. The longer the runway, the larger the planes it can accommodate. Larger planes, for example, a King Air 300, the weight of 3 pickup trucks, 300 mile-per-hour cruising speed, need this extra protection. Fourth, while see and avoid works for one object, it does not work for 77. The FAA states that it takes the average person 12.5 seconds per object. If you multiply that by 77, you get 16 minutes to pick out all 77 turbines. There simply is not that much time when you're flying between the speeds of 120 to 300 miles per hour. Thank you.
Harold Joseph.
Actually, I'm here speaking in behalf of the participants. Having visited with several participants, I brought up the subject about the property taxes on the windmills several times. In the original Energy, it talks about perhaps the taxpayer or the utility company would pay them, or if it was designated by the county, or they would reimburse the participant. Having said that, visiting with these participants, they've been led to believe that, because they haven't read their contract real well, that they assumed they was going to pay it directly to the county. Having said that, as we visited, they would like, and I'm suggesting it too, that they would put that in the ordinance that they would pay the taxes directly to the county in this ordinance number 32. Some time back, I asked about how much property tax they was expecting. Ray answered me, and having said it would average $2 million over the 7 years. I don't know if that was with 77 wind turbines or whether that was with 125. But when I divide 77 into $2 million, I come up with $25,974 for each, wind turbine for that taxpayer to come up with. Having said that, if it's 125, they would have to come up with $16,000. My point is, and their concern was, not everybody has $26,000 or $16,000 extra laying in their checking account at the time
2 minutes.
that their taxes would become due. In closing, remember Lord's Prayer. We ask God to forgive us as we forgive others. As you, as you perhaps update this ordinance, keep that in mind. May God have mercy on you, and may God bless you.
Chris Gehringer,
Yes.
Sherry Shakebo,
My husband Scott and I are farmers near Victor. We support this ordinance draft because it provides adequate protections while still allowing for future growth of wind energy in Iowa County. Number one reason I support the growth of wind energy is the environment. While I do not have a doomsday attitude towards climate change, I think we need to take advantage of opportunities to reduce the use of fossil fuels and the negative environmental and health impacts from it. Credible scientific studies attribute carbon emissions as the #1 cause of pollution on the planet, and that pollution contaminates our groundwater and causes or aggravates respiratory illnesses. No energy source is without flaws, but the overwhelming benefits to wind energy far outweigh any real negative. Number 2 reason I support the wind projects here is money. Notice I said money, not greed. Obviously, the lease payments to landowners are a godsend. It is the only guaranteed income we have that doesn't depend on weather or markets. The $2.2 million that Iowa County is estimated to receive for the 77 turbines under construction now will help schools, towns, roads, bridges, and other county projects. By those estimates, 200 turbines could potentially bring $5 to $6 million a year. That is what you will be turning your back on if you include setbacks whose sole purpose is to stop expansion. Every person in Iowa County will benefit from this revenue. I personally called a few county assessors to ask about their wind farm revenues. What I got back was positive, especially from Mitchell County, whose assessor I talked to at length. They received $2.77 million in revenue just for last year. In 10 years, that money has fixed bridges, paved several county roads with concrete, and built a new courthouse addition, among many other things. That could be Iowa County. There's a great article on iowaagconnections.com with testimonies from Poweshiek and Adair counties.
okay, that's the 2
Read it.
minutes.
Thanks.
Kim Brenneman,
I'm Kim Brenneman. I live in Green Township. Wind energy developers and elected officials that allow it or encourage it act as if Iowa was a wasteland, an inanimate thing with no value, no living, breathing communities of people who have been connected to each other for generations. These companies have no idea what Iowa nice means. The elected officials that become part of their propaganda system and work hand in hand with them have failed their communities. Wind turbine projects are destructive to Iowa's farmland, to the soils of the Midwest that this nation's wealth is built on. Wind turbines destroy our dynamic, nutrient-rich soil. With the actions taken to erect the turbines by removing the rich black soil for the base, the next 770 cubic yards are poured into a hole. Pylons may be put in beneath with another 200 cubic yards of concrete. I've heard both those numbers here in Iowa County. That is irreversible destruction. Should I stop there? No, I won't. Next, 1.5-inch thick steel stands are erected on the concrete and rebar platform that supports the nacelle. The nacelle or motor weighs 65 tons, contains 440 pounds of rare earth metals, and requires 60 gallons of oil to remain lubricated. Not very green. After that, 100 to 300 foot long blades made of resin and fiberglass with no recyclable value are placed. Industrial wind turbines are not green construction. Wind turbines affect aquifers, water flow, tile lines, soil erosion, soil compaction, air pressure, and air current. Industrial wind turbines degrade and fragment timber and wetlands, affecting the habitat and ecosystems of wildlife. Wind energy companies are obtaining easements and power to control the largest contiguous piece of the richest soils in the world. The Iowa County Board of Supervisors are being used as pawns in a system of control. They have the power to protect the county from this destruction, yet they refuse to. Industrial wind sites are ruinous to rural economic development simply because people do not want to live among them. I ask that ordinance 32 be amended to protect all 16,141 people of Iowa County.
Brenneman,
I'll pass.
Jody Dunhill,
Jody Dunhill, Holbrook. First off, I want to thank you guys for taking another stab at an ordinance. Is it an ordinance that everybody is going to agree upon? No. We talked about that a million times. Did a citizen committee work? John, you mentioned that last week. No, it didn't work. Did you guys consider anything that Jim and I brought to you? No, I don't feel so. So what I am asking here, and I'm not going to tell you guys whether to vote yes or whether to vote no, because honestly, I feel you guys all know which way you're going to vote before you even listen to all of us all day. Vicki, I hope you get it right this time, yes, no, or which way you're going to go. But what I do want to say is, if you guys do this ordinance, I hope you're prepared for changes, because I don't feel the ordinance is strong enough. Do you guys care what I say? No. It's up to you guys. I think you can make a better ordinance, but that's up to you guys, amendments down the road. Why were the airports taken out? I think it was a stab. Why was the English put in for a little bit? I think it was a joke. The 200, I think you were making the people from North English, Millersburg that have their easements signed happy. So maybe that was your compromise. But anyway, I hope you guys do the right thing for Iowa County. Someday, you know, my kids are gonna be able to stand up and they're gonna be able to wave their hand and say, Mom, at least you tried. I hope your kids can do the same. I hope you guys are right that the young farmers are going to get rich from this or be able to farm well. And I hope those people that are the older couples that signed, that maybe right now are going, oh, why did we sign? I hope they can retire off this. So I hope what you guys are shooting for actually happens. Thank you.
Abby Moss,
Good morning. It was difficult for me to decide where to begin with this ordinance because I feel it's very bare minimum and obviously based on political motives and personal conflicts. I've stayed very consistent in what I've asked for you guys to do with this wind ordinance. I don't feel the need to outline it specifically in detail. I guess don't forget about the 1,000 people who signed the petition because they agreed with my request that I made earlier. The setback for non-participating homes is not enough. The English River protection is an absolute joke, and the removal of airport protection confirms your intent to abuse your political powers. At the last hearing, it was obvious that no matter how many people make the same request, you have your minds made up to honor a small percentage of the county over the rest. Time and time again, you tell us we aren't using science or factual reasoning in our requests, but you fail to hold yourselves to your own critique. If you truly believe this is a fact-based ordinance, then you should try to use common sense next time. Many of our constituents are afraid to voice their concerns because you have mentioned not having an ordinance if this draft fails. If this is true, you should consider resignation because this is your job. Is it easy or glamorous? No. But you've obviously decided to pursue an ordinance and it should be done completely and correctly. City councils and other governing bodies go through more drafts and public work sessions than this. They realize that creating good laws require time and work. I say pass this draft if it's really the best effort you can put forth to protect our county's greatest assets, the land, the wildlife, and the people. I'd expect more from a supervisor governing an amazing county like ours, but it all boils down to the bar you measure yourself by. I think you need to understand that you're writing the future for our county and children. What do you want the history books to say about your effort to make a safe, happy place to live? Thank you.
Denise Lubka,
If your neighbor does something that devalues your property, puts your family in danger, impacts your health, and keeps you from the peaceful enjoyment of your property, that is a taking of your property rights. This ordinance takes away the property rights of thousands of people who live on farms, acreages, and in the towns and cities of Iowa County for the financial gain of a few. Many people told me they're not coming to the public hearing today because the supervisors aren't listening anyway. Unfortunately, I can't disagree with them. If this public hearing wasn't required by law, I don't believe our supervisors would be having it at all. The proposed ordinance is evidence that the supervisors have ignored the requests of over 1,000 citizens in Iowa County that signed a petition, and the majority of the people who spoke at the last public hearing requesting more protection from the negative effects of industrial wind turbines. Not less protection, more protection. This proposed ordinance is weak, unenforceable, and does even less protect the safety and welfare of Iowa County citizens than the last draft of Ordinance 32. One example is a protection for airports that's been removed since the last draft, despite a University of Kansas study that concluded that industrial wind turbine farms could be hazardous for small aircraft. Our supervisors have also received letters from local law enforcement officers that use our airports expressing their concerns. Another example is setback distances that have been reduced from people's homes, even though the height of the turbines allowed is an astronomical 650 feet tall. That's the height of a 65-story building. There's no protection from signal interference, which can cause Doppler radar, television, and NOAA weather radio signals, keeping people from getting hazardous weather warnings. There's no language to deal with industrial wind turbine fires, blade throw, and ice throw, and the dangers they create for life and property. Several towns that requested setbacks have been ignored. No amount of potential financial gain for the county or any individual or family is worth the safety of our children, grandchildren, and loved ones. The passage of this ordinance would put the health, welfare, and property rights of thousands in jeopardy for the financial gain of a few. Thank you.
Denise Mathis.
Hello, I'm Denise Mathis. I live in Fillmore Township. We farm in Fillmore and Green. According to a manual for the County Supervisors of Iowa, the scope of authority states, counties are empowered to perform any function to protect and preserve the rights, privileges, and property of the county or its residents, and to preserve and improve the peace, safety, health, welfare, comfort, and convenience of its residents. There are 16,141 residents in Iowa County. Out of those, 10,006 live in towns Williamsburg, Marengo, Victor, Parnell, Ledora, Millersburg, North English, Conroy, and the Amana colonies. Out of the 61 landowner and their entities that signed up for wind turbines, 5 of those live out of the state or out of the county, which means that less than 1% of the landowner easements are affecting 38% of the rural population in Iowa County. This is unacceptable. You talk about property rights, my property rights count as well. This ordinance is weak. The English River protection that you put in is definitely a joke. There's no protection for any of the historical properties in Iowa County at all. The Holbrook Church, cemetery, or hall, even the round building where there is one, you did make protections for the Amana colonies, but they only have 1,636 people over there. What about the rest of us? I would hope that you don't pass this ordinance and you put in a moratorium until you look and see what is happening when these monstrosities are erected.
Jessica Schroff.
Okay, no doodling while I'm speaking. You teach our kids to look at that person while they're talking to them, so eyes up here, but I gotta read fast because I can talk fast for my 2 minutes, okay? Took me a lot of courage to stand up here today, and I'm gonna do this one only for my family and who looks forward to a clear blue sky, beautiful sunsets, and nurturing a wildlife habitat just west of Williamsburg, where my family is grown and raised. So here it goes. I've been told that no adjustments will probably be made at this point, and I'm sure that your minds are already made up before you walked in here this morning. Any ordinance, however, is better than none. Did anyone take into heart what anyone spoke of in the last hearing? Because if so, it was not reflected in your last revision. At all, they're the bare minimums that you feel are good enough, so allowed to then continue with this. The one that was surgically removed was brought to my attention just recently in being the longtime local airstrip that the media law enforcement's used for the past many years. And this minimum is going to affect their future use, and have you asked about that? Because if it's not needed, as one board member stated in a video, not needed is what I have read, and these letters that two of you have chose not to even pick up from your local mailbox. How do you know that those letters were not different than what was sent to the rest of the board members? They could have been. So in that airstrip, is the minimum going to affect its future use, and have you asked about it? To this, the board member stated, not needed is not what I have read in those letters and written to all of you, and two of you did not pick up. Those could have been a big future impactment. I'll also touch on that on a routine basis. Air care does fly over my place in a heavy populated, going to be now a heavy populated turbine sites. I'm sure that you're aware of the safety hazard that those will have, and that those will now have to probably reroute. So I hope that you or your loved ones will never need such emergency air care to come to your loved ones. I recently read in an Iowa County ordinance from October 28th of 1998 that was protected of Belle Plaine, Cedar Rapids, and Iowa City airstrips, but not the local airstrip. This ordinance of yours will have a huge negative economic impact on its airstrip and for its future users, like we'll see. You have heard plenty on how also it'll affect the safety of crop dusters. So many factors, and I am at limited time, so I've passed the meeting. Truthfully, I just hope that all of you can sleep at night in the future to find out what these will have such a magnitude impact on all of our kids and grandkids. Thank you.
Darcy Knoll.
Good morning, I'm Darcy Knoll. I live north of Millersburg. The citizens of Iowa should be, but are not given the opportunity to vote on allowing industrial wind turbines into our communities. You are elected to represent us, the citizens of Iowa County. Per Iowa Code, your duties as a supervisor include to protect and preserve our rights and property, and preserve and improve our peace, safety, health, and comfort. This revised ordinance continues to protect Mid-American Energy and participating property owners only. It is wrong to take things that do not belong to you. Our property does not belong to Mid-American Energy, yet with setbacks such as in this revised ordinance, they are essentially able to use our property without our permission for their profit. Trespass zoning. More research and studies are being released showing industrial wind turbines are detrimental to humans, domestic animals, wildlife, and the environment, with ongoing studies planned. Iowa's state constitution grants us property rights, including safety and health on our property. Members of the Board of Supervisors have stated many times this is an issue of property rights. This revised ordinance continues to deny non-participating owners their property rights. Non-participating residents deserve, at the least, a 1/2 mile setback from residences and a distance equal to or greater than the turbine manufacturer's safety or evacuation zone from non-participating property lines. Also, the English River and publicly owned parks and lakes need protecting with the 3-mile setback you have given the Iowa River. I most certainly believe that the industrial wind turbine and substation on 275th Street will negatively impact the English River inhabitants and visitors, such as the 5 eagles I saw flying this last week approximately 1/2 mile northeast of the proposed industrial wind turbine site. Thank you.
That's all I have. Sorry.
Discussion?
Does that have anything?
I would like to move that we approve the first reading of ordinance number 32.
Second.
There's a second?
Second.
All in favor of approving the first reading of public hearing of ordinance number 32, say aye.
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 Well, I think, excuse me, I think approve the reading is an inappropriate term. I think we need to move to
Accept it.
pass ordinance 32.
I'll revise my motion then to pass ordinance 32.
All in favor of passing ordinance 32?
Aye.
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 same sign. First reading is passed then, 32.
Yep. The first reading.
Then you need to set it for a second hearing, or you can suspend that.
I make a motion, we suspend it.
Second?
Is there, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Second reading is suspended. You have to suspend the third.
No, that's the second and the third.
It's not required.
Right.
2 meetings are required when you publish it beforehand. You should probably have a motion to authorize
The final
the,
approval.
no, the county auditor to publish the enacted ordinance.
Okay. I'll make that motion, yes.
I'll second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion is passed.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. We are adjourned.
We always vote to find and we can live with this, and this turned out to be disastrous.
So next week is it too early to ask for amendments?
Start whenever, I'm sure.
Yeah, there's no-
Who do you guys think you're representing? We have a lot of people here that ask for reasonable things, and you guys ignored them all.
I wanna know what
Landowner,
if you-
taking away my landowner
If you'll take
rights.
the charges, I'll have the sheriff come over and arrest him. He's here. For what? She's been putting on Facebook, we should all be arrested, and then put in nursing homes.